Sunday, you can hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear. Perfect.
Super.
So in like 1 minute, I'm just letting the attendees joining. Then in 1 minute, we will start. Okay, I think it's time. So we'll just start. So welcome everyone to our very first webinar under the Zanzibar Law Society. My name is Sunday Godfrey Ndamgoba. I am the managing counsel of a law firm called ABC Attorneys. We are based in Dar es Salaam, but we have offices in Dodoma, Arusha, and in Zanzibar. So we've been in practice for about 10 years now, and we do corporate and commercial law. I'm also the chairperson of the IP committee under the East Africa Law Society, and I'm an arbitrator and a mediator as well. And I'm also a chartered trademark attorney and the UK Chartered Institute of Attorneys in the UK, but also I am also the governing council member under the Zanzibar Law Society, who have organized this very first, and we believe it's the first of many. We have a schedule lined up for the whole month of April and May as well. So I want to say thank you very much for everyone who has taken time to attend. Our topic today, the one we're starting off, because we believe for most lawyers, especially the ones in Zanzibar, we are very eager to learn and they want to grow with the effort of what our president is doing, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, and the president of Tanzania, Mama Samia Suluhu Hassan, in as far as making sure that the country is open. That means investments are coming in, but also lawyers would want to be equipped in terms of like to see on how their businesses can cater for those investments and investors. So today we're talking about building your modern law firm. We are looking at the management and planning of a firm's future. We have a very good lineup. We have Dr. Saudin Mikaje and Pamela Aga from Kenya. So I'm also here with Naomi Mushi, who is also an advocate practicing in Zanzibar. I will start off by doing the introductions. I will introduce Dr. Saudin, and then Dr. Saudin will present, giving us a picture of what they've been doing for all this time and what he believes is the best practice for law firm management and planning for the future. And after, Pamela will do the same. And after that, we will take in questions from the moderators, and we also give the floor a chance to speak. So I will start off with giving you a bit of a bio. It's a long one, but I will try to be as brief as I can. So Dr. Saudin is a practitioner. He practices in Dar es Salaam, in Tanzania mainland, and he qualifies also to practice in Zanzibar. He's one of the founding members of a law firm called Next Law Advocates. They're based in Dar es Salaam. They've been also in practice for quite some time, I believe almost 15 years now. He is the head of the IP department of the firm, handling contentious and non-contentious matters for local and international clients. He's also a senior lecturer at the University of Dar es Salaam School of Law, and he is the current Chief Corporate Counsel and Secretary to the Council of the University of Dar es Salaam. He specializes in IP, that is intellectual property, investments, and investment law. So his practice and research area basically into intellectual property, investment, corporate law, transaction law, and international trade and finance law. He has a PhD, an LLM, and LLB. He advises clients, large corporates and SMEs on how to integrate now intellectual property issues within the broader context of their business, so they can maximize on their enterprise. So Dr. Mukaji has also worked as a consultant and a legal advisor in several projects in the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization, that's ARIPO, and also with the World Intellectual Property Organization, that's WIPO, as well as the World Trade Organization, the WTO, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, the East African Community, and the World Bank. So as you can see, he's quite diverse, he's very knowledgeable. He's the right person to be speaking to us today with regards to our topic. So to kick off, I would like to let him have the floor. He will take us through, and after, then we will have Pamela to take over. We'll introduce her, take over, and do her bit, and thereafter we'll take in questions. So, Doctor, please, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Sunday, and warm welcome to participants. Mr. Sunday, thank you. Your introduction was quite generous. I appreciate, and I hope I'm going to live to the bill the way you presented myself to this important meeting. As I've pointed out, I'm a founding partner at Next Law Advocates, a law firm which is based in Dar es Salaam, but we do practice in Zanzibar as well. We are very active in Zanzibar. I know the legal and the regulatory environment in Zanzibar for quite some time. So what I'll do during my presentation is to just highlight in terms of what we do as a firm. We might not be a good example to emulate, but we feel throughout our presence, there are quite a number of lessons which we have learned, which are important for others maybe also to learn in terms of what it takes to build.
Sorry to stop you, Doctor. Where you are, is it possible for you to switch on video, or it's not convenient?
It says the host has stopped it.
Let me see what I can do. But you can continue, and I'll try and sort that one out.
Yeah, you have to allow, I think, me from your side.
Okay, will do.
You let me know once that is possible.
Okay.
So as I was pointing out, then I also share some of the best bits or aspects to take into account if at all we have to set up a law firm which is functioning, which is successful. As I was preparing for my presentation, I had some difficulties with the title in terms of modern law firm. What do we mean by it? And what is the yardstick of setting a modern law firm? Is a modern law firm necessarily a successful law firm? These are the questions which I've been asking myself. But at least I can point out that when you talk about a modern law firm, we are talking about a law firm which is able to respond with the changing market dynamics. It can address the current legal and regulatory dynamics, attend the clients in a modern market and investment environment. So we'll be referring for the purposes of my presentation and contextualize what constitutes a modern law firm in that context. So in terms of building a modern law firm, I would say, I think one of the important consideration is how you start a law firm. I know the theme of this webinar presupposes that a firm is already running, then we are building to become a modern law firm. But it's very important to take into account also how or what it takes to establish a functioning law firm in terms of its operational aspects, without forgetting its physical infrastructure in order to be able to serve wide and dynamic clientele base. So instead, in terms of starting a modern law firm, I would say when we talk about, they're talking about a professional entity, but beyond professionalism, we're talking about some very important relationship between the members of the firm. So it's very important from the very beginning, when you contemplate or you think of setting up a law firm, at least to have people who share the vision. Because if you don't have partners, if you don't have fellows who share the vision, that will be a starting point of many problems ahead as you continue the practice. So it's very fundamental that you have a team, particularly when we talk about partners who share the vision. You might not necessarily need to have a team that is 100% compatible. We know the differences may be there in terms of some of the issues, but at least on those fundamental principles, fundamental tenets in terms of the direction of the firm, in terms of the growth, in terms of ethics, in terms of the governing principles, operational principles, it is important that you have a common understanding, at least a shared view. If you just neglect that, or you just take it for granted that you are going to sort it out down the line, that would be a recipe of failure, because there are moments where during law firm management, contentious issues may come, and also you may have different views on how to attend certain matters or adopt certain approaches in order to move forward. So I would like to highlight that that's very important from the very beginning, to have a shared vision. That's what we did at Next Law. We made sure that we understand each other, we understand our differences, and also we have some common shared vision, which will be defining our law firm, not for the next 5 or 10 years. We look at the long-term future. So other issues will come in and they fit in within the vision. So that's very important to start with. And also important, that's what we did, is also to have a clear plan. We normally start a law firm, in most cases, I've seen people starting a law firm just by excitement. It's good, of course, you have to be excited, but it's important, if we have to build a modern law firm, to have a very clear path in terms of growth, how you are going to engage interns, other lawyers, other staff. And in order to have a predictable and defined arrangement for a modern law firm, you need to have also some internal tools, guidelines that will guide, in order to avoid unpredictability. Or in a case where, okay, I can put on my video, I think. Okay, perfect. I hope you'll be able to see me. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I was pointing out the need of having internal instruments or guidelines that will define the firm. But very important is to have the a clear path. That's where do you want to go? And that will also go down in terms of identifying clients. Who do you want to deal with and who you may not want to deal with? Do you have a qualifying process that in terms of qualifying clients who come to you? Because at the end of the day, the clients you attend, the clients you are dealing with also define the image of your firm. So it's very important to have a very common understanding and also internal tools that govern not only issues of HR, like how you recruit, issues of practice, but also important also to have a financial management guidelines. How are you going to manage the finances, which normally has been a source of many disputes in law firms. So I thought I should just bring that dimensions from the very beginning. When you start a law firm, it's very important to have a common vision, a shared view, so that you may have easy path in terms of planning. Also important is to have defined areas which you want to identify yourself as a competent. We understand legal practice is quite diverse nowadays. It's quite diverse, and many areas are now coming up. So it's very crucial from the very beginning to identify the key areas. Are your firm going to be a general law firm, or is it going to be a commercial, corporate law firm? I've seen many firms referring themselves to be corporate. Then maybe they're not handling other lines of practice like criminal law, or you opt for a boutique law firm, specialized law firm. In developed countries, that is a practice. You find a law firm is just specifically designed to deal with a specific area of practice. Maybe it's family law, banking law, intellectual property law, and many areas. So you have to define, if you have to go for general, what are the areas which you want to have competence, because that will define future plans, particularly training and the recruitment, because you want to major in certain areas. So the focus will be in all training programs of the firm to focus on those specific areas in order to build competence and also build link with clients. So that's what we did also at Next Law. We've got departments, we have a head of departments. We've got, for management purposes, an accountant, a finance department, which is also handling all issues relating to billing, expenditures, because there is a compliance aspect. For a modern law firm, it will be good for, it is now a requirement, not the question of being good, a requirement to comply. So there are issues of tax related matters. You need to have an accountant, because you as a lawyer in a modern law firm, you have to focus on your area of practice. So issues of management, tax related issues on day-to-day, you have got to get someone who handle that, whether you outsource or you have someone internal who is permanently handling all the expenses, billing, so that you have a more smooth financial reports when revenue authorities are coming to your firm. So that's what we did. It's still a work in progress, I may say, at Next Law, but I think we are on the right track in terms of having the right foundation so that we can plan ahead with a common understanding. So in terms of thoughts for a modern law firm, I'm looking at it from two major angles. When you talk about modernization of a law firm, and here we're talking about management and planning. Now, when it comes to management, of course, a modern law firm is expected to have also modern physical and working infrastructure. That is a very important requirement. Normally, clients are getting impressed with how you look and how your office look. So it's very important to take that into account in terms of facilities. So you look at some basic things like how are you set in terms of the office layout, the furnitures, the e-resources that you have, the interactive. I've seen now firms are having software where they can interact with their clients. Clients love that because they want to be always on top of their issues that you are handling. So firms which are able to do that, I think they're better placed. And in the modern contemporary market environment, I think that is a key consideration, how you interact with your clients, how feedbacks are given to clients on a timely, efficient way. So those are important, some of the important considerations. But crucial now, when you look at the management and planning of a modern law firm, it is very important also to consider the issue of sustainability of the firm. What do we mean by this? all that we mean by sustainability, we are referring to having a system, an institution. I know some firms where they have one name, one office, but operational-wise, everyone is operating on his own. Every partner is having his or her clients. Now, issue of sustainability presupposes that you have continuity. If the partner is not around today, who is going to take up the matter? Who will be informed in terms of the case, the issue of the client? So normally, corporate clients who are conscious and aware of this need of sustainability, when they engage firms, they check on your team and who are committed to a particular assignment. Now you provide sort of safeguards. In case of emergency, a partner maybe is getting sick, or a person, a lawyer who was responsible for a particular assignment is getting sick. Who will take up the matter? How good, how well briefed the one who's taking up the matter is. So it's very important to look at it from that point. The old-fashioned law firms where you have just an individual holding the assignment. In his or her absence, no movement, no service to client. That is not a good recipe in the current market environment. So a modern law firm will have a clear plan for sustainability, continuity. So absence of a member of the firm should not affect the service given to clients. Also important is to have a culture. A modern law firm will have its defined culture, way you handle matters, way you communicate with the clients. We define ourselves and we brand ourselves based on what we do on a daily basis. So it's very important during the planning phase for a modern law firm, you have a very clear path in terms of what will be our etiquette in terms of communicating, writing, presentation. The qualifying process of admitting new clients is extremely important, because in the wrong line, it will define what we call the firm culture, the institutional or culture. And that ties in with what I've mentioned previously, how you manage your clients. Clients differ in terms of expectations. Clients differ in terms of the needs. And we've seen nowadays, I hope you've come across this situation like that, where the client is coming to you is a third or fourth opinion. They've already met with other lawyers. They're just seeking a confirmation. So it's very important as you manage a client, make sure that you get a full picture in terms of what exactly is the issue they're facing. You maintain that you are going to guide them from a professional point of view, so you abide to the dictates of the laws and regulations. Try to get as a lot of information from clients before you provide, or you attempt to provide, an opinion or a solution to a particular specific aspect. And that goes down on how you respond. Clients nowadays are very much demanding in terms of turnaround time. They want, once they communicate with you, how long do you take to respond? Even an email to acknowledge that, okay, I'm in receipt of your email, I'm attending it. They want a commitment. When are you going to come back? So it's very important as you manage clients. Number one, you have to manage clients' expectation as a modern law firm. I know clients, they want their solution yesterday when they present their issue today. So how do you do with that? One of the ways to be very careful when we promise the timeline for delivery. I think that's very important for client management as you plan, because you have to be conscious of the scope of the work, how long it's going to take, and accordingly you plan and you provide the projections that will be achievable within the timeline which you think is possible given the assignment. There is a rule that you under promise and you over deliver. What does it mean? You know the work will take maybe 2 days. Then you say, I'll get back to you after 5 days. Then after 3 days, you come back. Then that is, you have over delivered. So it's very important to be realistic. And when you have promised, then after some time, you realize the work is still taking too much time, that you're not going to be able to come back with the opinion or solution within the time you projected. It is highly advisable to inform the client that you may take more time so that the client is informed. Important also for a modern law firm is to undertake training. We understand the legal discipline is dynamic. It keeps on changing. So it's very important also to have a training program to appraise members of the firm with the new areas, new dimensions, new issues that are taking place within the regulatory framework. And along with that, brief the clients also in terms of how the law has changed and how that impacts their operations. So that will be very important in terms of managing clients and also improving the capacity, internal capacity of the firm. Along with that, I mentioned briefly about the need of also embracing the technology. When you talk about modern law firm, we know most of us, old schoolers, we've been trained during the times when the technology was not part and parcel of day-to-day operations. So the learning nowadays is high-tech. The delivery methods of our services is also high-tech. And nowadays we see the changing environment where we see the market platforms where you get to a client, how you relate with them, the emergence of artificial intelligence. I think that is the subject we'll discuss during the plenary. All these are affecting how we interact with the clients. So this is a no-brainer in terms of having budgets for e-resources and deploying technologies in order to be able to reach out to clients in a manner that meets their expectations, but make it easier for them to relate and connect with us as we offer various services. Finally, the modern law firm, however good you are in terms of infrastructure, however good you are in terms of e-resources, you need to have what we call a collegial spirit. You have, I mentioned in the beginning, the shared view, the shared vision is extremely important in order to have plans which are connected, they read to each other, and in that way we'll be able to serve the client in this changing market environment. So maybe as a starting point, I just end up there by pointing out those are the key issues which we need to take into account as we set and we continue to build a modern law firm. And maybe a final thought on that. We have seen some changes which are taking place recently because of some global dynamics. Remember during the pandemic, COVID-19, where people had to work from home, how you attend clients, how do you do the filings. So these are some of the lessons which I've learned, which pinpoint to the need of having the institutional flexibility, where we have the internal structure which can change with the changing environment so that there is no interruption of services, whatever happens in the markets, whether it's a global disaster or whatever, we should be able to recover and continue to offer services to our clients. Remember, some of the firms have been challenged whether you have a backup, off-site backup. What happens if the entire system is destroyed or it is hacked? Do you have any backup in terms of information, particularly confidential information you have about clients? These are the issues which need to be taken into account in order to build a modern law firm which is sustainable and able to withstand changing market environment. Thank you, Mr. Sunday. You gave me 30 minutes. I think I've exhausted my 30 minutes. I bring it back to you. Some of the issues I think I respond during the plenary questions and answers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate in you keeping time. But what is interesting, what I've picked on is culture. I believe, like what you were saying, culture is very key. And for most law firms, we don't consider culture as one of those things that ties us together in as far as servicing of our clients, in as far as office to office relations and mace to mace relations, but then in terms of quality of work and delivery, but also when it comes to growth. So I believe, like what you're saying, without culture, you can't move. But I think we'll discuss more on culture when we take on the questions. So moving forward, because I picked up on a lot from technology, from how we can manage current expectations, but I will leave that to when we do questions. I would like to give my co-moderator, Naomi, to introduce our second panelist, and then we kick it off from there. Naomi, please, the floor is yours. If you're able to switch on your camera, I'll appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Hi, Sunday.
Hi, I can hear you now.
Okay. So, thank you, Dr. Saudian, for a nice presentation. And now I would like to introduce the next speaker, who is Pamela Iga. She's a lawyer. She's a managing partner at Oraro and Company Advocates. She's the head of banking and finance, conveyance and real estate practice group with over 22 years of experience. Pamela has advised both local and international clients in banking and financial, construction and capital markets, conveyance and real estate. She holds Masters of Law degree, LLM first class honor from University of Auckland, New Zealand, and also bachelor degree from University of Waikato. She's also postgraduate diploma in law from Kenya School of Law. Aside from her legal practice, Pamela is lecturer at the University of Nairobi School of Law, Kenya's oldest and large university. She's also serves as her capacity as director on several boards. Pamela also serves in boards of education institutions and often speaks in various key events. Some of them focus on women and young girls, covering topics such as courageous leadership. She also mentors many young women in professional. With more than 2 decades of managerial and legal experience, Pamela has unique skill that play the delicate balance between legal know-how and management in top-tier firms, giving her prominence on one of the leading female corporate lawyers in Kenya. Pamela is a member of Law Society of Kenya, East Africa Law Society, and Federation of Women Lawyers. She's also a member of the Institute of Directors. With that, I hope very short introduction, which is also long. I would like to give her a chance now to speak for our ZLS members and other members who are able to join us today. Welcome, Pamela.
Good afternoon. Let me just get a confirmation that you can hear me first before I start.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, good afternoon again to my learned friends. And let me say thank you to Naomi for that introduction, very great introduction, very detailed, thank you. And before I start, I also want to just say a special thank you to Sunday for this invitation and just exceptional follow-up. Thank you so much for that, we appreciate it. I'd also like to thank Daktari for the presentation that he's just done before me, great presentation. We clearly think alike, and they say great minds think alike, but Daktari, thank you so much. I think when I share my paper, you see that we share similar views on different aspects. So allow me to just use my 30 minutes. I have my very able timekeeper who will keep an eye and on the time and just let me know when I am going beyond the time, and we can obviously address any other issues during the discussions. So I'm just going to start my presentation very shortly. Thank you. Okay, so let me start this presentation by just the topic that Tari has said, and Sunday has also told us, is about building your modern law firm, managing and planning your firm's future. So in this presentation, this is what I intend to cover. I think the introduction has been done, so I'll go straight to the presentation. What I will do first is just ask, what is a modern law firm? As Dr. said, when the question is posed, you have to ask yourself, really, what is the expectation in this presentation? And the way I'll do that is I will talk about the traits of a modern law firm. I will then talk about what makes a law firm practice a success. What does one have to do to successfully manage a law firm? How does one plan for the success of a law firm? What are the challenges that a modern law practice faces? And I will then give my recommendations and conclusions. So I would like to just start by saying that times and trends are clearly changing. And it is important that any law firm, any modern law firm indeed, keeps an eye on the emerging trends and therefore fits into its strategy what these emerging trends are, to be able to grow the firm's business and to remain relevant. And growth of business is really why we are here, and also to remain relevant. Now, the modern law firm needs to keep abreast of the changing trends, and there are many things that keep changing. We'll discuss those. And while doing this, as Dr. said, you have to incorporate technology into the firm's processes. And when we talk about technology, it's beyond what is Teams, what is Zoom, what is email, those basic things. It's really about technology that is critical, and we'll discuss that. It also has to have constant training to improve the workforce knowledge of the modern trends of the law, and it has to be very intentional and targeted in its marketing. And of course, we'll talk about that. Traditionally, we know in Africa, most law firms are not allowed to advertise or to market, but we will see that they are indeed marketing with factual information very, very differently, and that must be intentional and targeted. We all appreciate the fact that the management of a modern law firm is very multifaceted. It has commercial management, industrial management, financial management, reporting and account management, and training and knowledge management for its staff and its clients. So the modern law firm, we are saying, needs to be forward-thinking, adaptable, and proactive in the way it does its business. So as a teacher of law, I thought, what do I say that will make you remember, the critical things that I think are the main traits of a law firm? And I thought of Stephen Covey and his 7 habits of highly effective people. So I said there may be many, but I'll make them 7 habits of a highly successful modern law firm, or indeed the 7 habits of a modern law firm, if I borrow from Stephen Covey, because when there are too many, you can't remember. So just remember the 7. And these 7 habits are: 1, the modern law firm, if we look at its characteristics or traits, responds to current trends. Okay, you must, 1, respond to current trends. And 2, it prepares to position itself for the future. Thirdly, it must have business intelligence. We cannot do business just by sitting in the office and not knowing what's happening out there. And fourthly, very, very importantly, it leverages on cutting-edge technology to improve the way it delivers legal services to its clients. 5, it focuses on client centricity. This must be a key part or a critical part of the modern law firm's business strategy. 6, it hires and retains good talent. So it's not just about hiring them, it's about keeping them there. And we'll talk about this later. Now, what does it mean for you to hire and retain good talent? It means you invest time and resources in training and developing your lawyers and your support team. It means that you're open about communicating progression opportunities to them. And very, very importantly, as Dr. said, culture is critical in the corporate. There's a famous saying that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. What does that mean? However great and grand your strategy is, if your culture is wrong, you cannot succeed as a modern law firm. And also in terms of talent, mentorship plays an important role in keeping top talent. And lastly, on that talent aspect, top talent is very interested in feedback. So we must give them feedback. And the last seventh habit, or the last seventh trait, is it is committed to consistent quality professional services. So it's not just about delivering professional services once in a while, that's good. It must be consistent. So those are the 7 traits or characteristics that I want you to remember that I think are critical for any modern law firm. So how do you respond to current trends? You must understand and appreciate what your clients are demanding. Okay, so modern clients expect that you embrace effective technology, that you have commercial awareness, and that you understand their business. So for example, let's pick a few examples because we can't talk about all of them. So the world is now talking about ESG consistently, the environment, social, governance. What are you doing as a corporate entity? Is your business sustainable? How do you treat people? What are your governance structures? Do you respect the environment? Clients expect that you have the same ESG standards as they do or better. Clients expect that you understand their billing software so that you can collaborate and efficiently deliver. They expect that you understand their data protection policies and that the confirmation that their data is protected. Those are just some examples. You just must have standards on ESG or data protection and really on billing standards that are based on practices as examples. Clients expect that your services as a modern law firm are the same as theirs and preferably even better if they can trust you. The second thing that I said is that clients expect for a modern law firm that you prepare to position yourself for the future. Now, a modern law firm must position itself for the future. You cannot just work in a vacuum. Okay, and that means you must be forward thinking in the way you deliver legal work. You must leverage on technology. You must be innovative in your practices, and you must provide high quality services to your clients based on efficiency, effectiveness. And now we are beginning to learn more and more, they must be specifically tailored to the client. Even though it is basic run-of-the-mill kind of legal world, they expect bespoke services. Now, to be able to prepare to position, the modern law firm positioning itself for the future must understand and embrace legal technology, regulatory technology, and artificial intelligence, and really how this can improve the efficiency of the business of the modern law firm. A lot has been discussed about AI coming to eradicate lawyers, law tech, and regulatory technology. We are saying that for a modern law firm, you need not panic about these developments, but you need to see how they can actually be embraced and adopted in the modern law firm to improve your business efficiencies. And therefore, clients will expect that you position yourself for the future by embracing law tech, reg tech, and artificial intelligence, and that you understand basic things, whether, as I said, it comes to climate change, data protection, ESG. Okay, how does the modern law firm treat the environment or consider the environment? It's simply not about waiting for instructions and acting on them. We are expecting that a modern law firm, for example, is clear that you don't just print every email that comes to you, every document that comes to you, and your clients know that you're responsible and accountable to ESG, for example. And in preparing again for your preparing and positioning itself for the future, is that you must be a thought leader if you're a modern law firm, and that you must be well positioned in the wider society. It's not just about law firms. So, for example, if the African continent is integrating, we now have AFCFTA. How is the modern law firm assisting in that integration? Okay, the modern law firm promptly responds to the needs of its stakeholders. Dr. talked about that. And your stakeholders are not just your client, it is your clients. Okay, it is your staff, whether they're legal or non-legal. The modern lawyer, in positioning itself for the future, must ensure that its organization or its law firm has gender parity, is inclusive in its employment policy. Okay, represents the society. What is the society? Society cannot belong to one tribe if you come to Africa. It must, your clients expect that you're inclusive, you have different tribes, you have different races, you have different communities, and that you're inclusive. A modern law firm also must have business intelligence. So traditionally, law firms just practice. Work came, a good referral came, but now we are going beyond that. A modern law firm must have business intelligence. And what is business intelligence? This is really the procedural and technical infrastructure that collects, stores, and analyzes the data produced by the company's activities. Now, this information is critical. The intelligence is critical because this is how you mine data. This is how you can analyze your information. This is how you can deal with performance benchmarking. This is how you can deal with analytics. You cannot operate business now if you just don't have data. So business intel is important. You have to know when the work is coming, even before it comes. You have to position yourself when the work comes. So if you do not have business intelligence, you will just become obsolete. Traditionally, we just worked. The world has changed now. People are now mining data. People are now benchmarking themselves based on international best practice. People are now analyzing their processes based on business intelligence to improve practice in modern law firms. The fourth aspect I talked about is really, and Daktari also talked about this largely, is that the modern law firm leverages on cutting-edge technology to improve the way it delivers legal services to the client. And as I said, it's really beyond just basic email, basic Word, Microsoft. It's really about leveraging on cutting-edge technology. And that's what our IT department, our IC department is always saying, you lawyers need to be a little bit more involved in technology. So you have to integrate technology in your day-to-day operations as a firm. You have to utilize digital tools, okay, to enhance your efficiency and obviously provide better outcomes for the client. You must have strong digital presence. We now see law firms on social media. Obviously, there's a decorum and etiquette for law firms, but you need to be in the digital space to have a wider reach than where you are. Okay, and modern technology will really streamline your processes, manage your documents and data, and provide more efficient communication with your clients. Now, digital platforms are also important because they help us collaborate with other legal professionals and provide services to clients in remote locations, like we are doing with our team from Zanzibar today. Another aspect which lawyers need to change their mindset that is critical in my 7 habits is really that modern law firms focus on client centricity. Now, this must be a key part in your business strategy. Traditionally, lawyers just thought the client just wants work from me. Clients now are very, very different. They want you to listen to their needs. They want you to understand their business and their goals. They want you to deliver customized, bespoke solutions that show that you understand their specific needs, okay? They want you to have alternative fee structures, whether it is fixed, okay, whether it's based on the lawyer's remuneration order, whether it is going to be hourly. They want you to understand that business is not rigid. And this, by the way, let me say as a lawyer, I'm not talking about undercutting in the profession. That's criminal. I'm talking about giving the client alternative fee structures to accommodate the way the fees are paid. And we know very well that client centricity is critical because it is said that your client is your greatest marketer. And therefore, you need to deliver good quality so that your clients can speak about your work, because your clients can sing your praises if your work is good. And obviously, a happy client is a repeat client. An unhappy client will tell more people. The marketing joke is that a happy client will tell 2 people. An unhappy one will tell 20. So client centricity is critical in business, perhaps one of the most, and maybe the top thing that you must think about as a modern law firm. And what does client centricity do? It also helps you manage visibility, okay, for your firm. It shows that you understand the client's perspective, the client's needs, and you're able to communicate them better. And when you do the work, you must remember a very, very important thing, that you must get feedback from your client. Sometimes you think you're so great in your work, but your client might think otherwise. They may be waiting for you to finish the work. And whereas you need to put in a lot of the work, your client is not interested in the difficulty of the work. They're interested in the result. There's a very famous saying by Tim Williams who says, clients don't care about your labor pains. They want to see the baby. Let me repeat that. Clients don't care about the labor pains. They want to see the baby. In other words, clients want to see the bottom line, the results. And modern law firms have recognized that they must run a people-centered practice. And this means a people-centered practice with regard to your staff and a people-centered practice with regards to your clientele. If you treat your staff well, the receptionist will welcome the client, the secretary will ensure the client has tea, the tea lady will ensure that the utensils are good, the lawyers will ensure that they deliver good service and that they understand the client. Your tea lady should not be asking a repeat client, how do you like, would you like tea or coffee? They should know client X likes coffee, whether it is coffee in milk, no sugar, with honey, this kind of coffee. It's about delivering bespoke services, and all those things matter from the time somebody drives into your office. So client centricity is critical for business. Clients are now also demanding, when it comes to client centricity, that I don't just want to give you work and I pay you. I want value add from you. Now, value add provides, these are the additional services, okay, and value to bolster the client's experiences, and they can be many. This can be just management of matters for your client in a different way. Client training, we do a lot of trainings for clients at Oraro & Company, using innovative technology that shows the client how efficient your services are, providing business insights analysis, providing secondments for maybe the legal officers who work for your clients, and really being readily available, for clients to access quick responses in a timely manner that adds value to their business. The other one that I said was very, very important, and I will not talk too much about it because I spoke about it a lot, was that, a modern law firm hires and retains good talent. Remember that talent is what is running your business, and the firm is concerned about the people. A modern law firm is concerned about the people beyond employment contracts and letters of engagement. It's not just what is in the employment contract. It is really about what is in the letter of engagement. It's really for your client, not about just providing what is in the letter of engagement. It is more than that. So you have to get the right partners, okay? You have to hire the right partners. I think Datari talked about this also. The partners determine the culture of the organization. If the partners don't respect the staff and clients, how do you expect the rest of your staff to do so? If the partners don't have a result-oriented, results orientation is not key for them, how do you expect the rest of the team to do that? So in hiring people, you must remember as a modern law firm that team selection is critical for you to succeed as a modern law firm. And therefore you must have clear policies on hiring and retaining staff based on international best practice. It's not just about my friend's daughter did law, my daughter did law, my cousin, my brother. It's really about hiring people and retaining them based on international best practice. And when you hire them, you must invest in them, provide the resources they need. You must be open about communicating progression opportunities. Culture is critical. You must mentor them and you must give them feedback. And remember that the modern law firm must look like the public. I said that. It must be diverse. It must be inclusive in its staff. It must represent where you are, what you're practicing, and it must your client portfolio must represent also the public. So your client portfolio cannot belong to one tribe or one community or one race. It must be diverse. Now, it also must be inclusive. What kind of organization do you have as a modern law firm? Are you employing lawyers who are visually impaired, who are visually impaired? Are you providing them with facilities to work? Maybe lawyers who are hearing impaired, are you providing them with the facilities to work? Because the world does not have people who are all able in a certain way. Do you have women? Do you have men? Do you have different communities? Do you have different races? Because that's really what the society has. And a modern law firm cannot be rigid in its thinking. And the seventh habit, or the seventh critical thing, is that it must be committed to consistent quality professional services. Yeah, I'm being told my timing, which is good. I have 10 minutes. So law firms must have and maintain quality control measurements, because this is really how you can measure your output, okay? And when all this is said and done, okay, the proof is in the pudding, the work that you have done. So a modern top-tier firm is very keen on standards across the board, in its legal documentation, in its digital presence. Everything is about quality control, even in the basics of grammar, okay? So your excellence as a modern law firm, your quality standards is what will build trust amongst your clients. I remember attending a talk by Nigel Boardman from Slaughter and May, expert in Africa, head of the African practice in Slaughter and May, and ILF, and he's saying for a modern law firm, your client must trust you to the extent of believing that you are the expert in everything, almost everything. I'm not talking about law only here. You'll be the expert in what you practice. Remember, a lawyer cannot be a jack of all trades and a master at none. Whether it's 2 or 3 things you're an expert in, but you should be so trusted that when your client has a domestic issue at home, they call you for advice. Not necessarily legal. What do you think I should do? When they are taking their child to university, they call you. When they are sick, they call you. And your job, of course, is not to treat them when they are sick, is to refer them to the doctor that you know. And even when you don't know, the client must trust that the lawyer knows everything to even give them the referral that is best. Now, when it comes to what makes a law firm practice a success, it's really the same 7 points. So I will not repeat them because it's really responding to current client trends, preparing to position yourself for the future for a modern law firm, business intel being critical, leveraging on cutting-edge technology to improve on the way you deliver services to your clients, focusing on client centricity and making this part of your business strategy, hiring and retaining clients, and being committed to consistent quality professional services. Let me give you a bonus point because I like Zanzibar and people there are very good, like Sunday Naomi. My bonus point for you is that you must have legal project management for all transactions and matters that you handle. Now, what does this mean? It means that you must, when you get a project, you must monitor clearly and you must communicate on an ongoing basis and review the transaction continuously with clear measurements. Now, what does legal project management do? It ensures that the expectations with respect to what the client needs are clearly met, that the communication is seamless, that the milestones relating to the matter are clearly defined, and that the work is done in a cost-effective manner for the client. So legal project management is critical for a modern law firm. Now, what does one have to do to successfully manage a law firm? I will not repeat them because of time, but I'll just highlight them. One of them is the client. The client is the heart of your business. Meeting client demand trends is critical. So you must keep an eye on what is going out there, and your strategy must fit into what your client wants. Client centricity is critical, and the client must experience fantastic service from you, from the person who receives the client up to the lawyer who delivers the business, because client experience is now at the heart of legal delivery. In fact, in a survey done by the big four, as we call them, they said that the most important thing for clients is client centricity. And if you deliver good client centricity, they are willing to pay you an arm and a leg for it. Obviously, internal operations and management is critical. The law firm must be operated in a way that shows that it is based on international best practice when it comes to employees, clients, and the organization itself. And the etiquette and the nature of the operations in the firm is very, very critical. Now, what does one need to do to successfully manage a law firm? I said you must understand the emerging trends, and the big ones now we have is the demand of the growing importance of ESG. You have to build your technological capacity. Clients are now demanding transparency. Are you compliant when it comes to tax? Daktari said that. What is your policy when it comes to data protection? Is my data fully secured? I need to understand your transparency. Are you involved in money laundering? Show me the policies that confirm that you don't do that. Is your organization associated with sexual harassment? What kind of organization are you? So transparency is being demanded. And business development is critical now for any modern law firm if you want to successfully manage or run it. So business development obviously entails pursuing strategic opportunities when it comes to particularly relating to legal business, and really just ensuring that the firm is visible and it is respected out there. So how does one plan for the success of a law firm? And I'll say this very quickly. The first thing I say you must do is the management of culture is critical. We talked about it. Remember I said there's a famous saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. However great your culture is, however great your strategy is, if your culture is wrong, a modern law firm will not succeed. And then once you get the culture right, people must change their mindset. And you must employ personalized client service. You must add value for the client, whether value addition can come through innovative technology, business insights, facilitating industry networking groups, client-specific training. Your technology must be above board. You must have clear data management and monitoring services. You must communicate well with your clients. There must be good thought leadership, and you must have a deeper understanding of the client's business by providing a predictive outlook for the business landscape. This is about business. That's what a law firm is about. So you must have a great predictive outlook on what is expected. And your targeting, your business development must be very intentional and targeted when you come to that. Very quickly, I'll talk about the challenges that face a modern law practice. And the first one we all know perhaps is the cybersecurity that we have there. Law firms continue, cybersecurity concerns, law firms continue to be especially vulnerable to the threats of cybersecurity. So I'm expecting handling any client data, that you ensure that that data is protected and that you have proper systems and structures that will protect your reputation and indeed your finances, because when they penetrate your systems, they will demand that you pay the ransom. The other challenge that faces that many of us need to overcome and face modern law firms is really some of us not being commercially aware. It's not about just giving client the legal position when it comes to statute and case law. It is about understanding the client's business and their objectives, being commercially aware for the client. Stiff competition is there, but I would say it's a challenge, but you need not worry about it, because if you do what we are saying about, what Daktari and I are saying about a modern law firm, then your business should be able to address that challenge. And then again, many law firms don't have proper strategy and planning. If you do not plan, then obviously you're going to fail. And remember the famous saying that a plan really that is not clearly provided for, clearly written, is just a wish list. You don't want to be there. As I conclude on the recommendations and conclusions, what would I like to say now that we have heard about all these things that modern law firms are about? I would like to say that the modern law firm needs to be forward-thinking, adaptable to change, and proactive. And this modern law firm must keep abreast with the changing trends. It must incorporate technology into the firm's processes. There must be constant training to improve the workforce based on modern trends, and the marketing or business development must be very intentional and targeted. Remember, I said that the management of a modern law firm is multifaceted. It includes commercial management, industrial management, financial management, training, and knowledge management for staff and clients. Modern law firms must be sustainable. Daktari said that. They must outlive their founders, okay? And therefore, you must have proper governance structures, okay? You must invest. I know sometimes many law firms, especially in the African continent, we make money and we enjoy the money. We must put the money back, the resources, to improve the firm. And we must obviously incorporate strong business components, and value-driven visions must be clear. And we must hire and attract and retain employees, okay? And this is not just for lawyers. You must hire the best when it comes to human resources, ICT, financing, business development, and even your support staff. Another thing I'd like to say is that modern lawyers today are not about, I am an expert in 10 things. Pick 1 or 2 things and be an expert. Pick the niche areas that you want to be associated with. As I said, do not be a jack of all trades and a master of none. What else must we do in my recommendations? I'm saying you must produce a gap analysis to show the difference between where your firm is currently and where you want to go. That's the vision. You must clarify your law firm's key objectives for the next 3 to 5 years. Don't go too far, 10 years. This will make it easier for you to develop the strategies that you want your firm to adopt in its growth. And you must go back to your stakeholders, your own fellow colleagues, your partners, your associates, your business development team, your IT team. You must have them measure and give you feedback on how you can improve your business. Now, lawyers don't think about marketing and business, but I'd like to conclude and say, are you challenging yourself to do the branding work? Protect your brand, because it is the singular thing that grows anything. And that is a quote clearly from Gary Vaynerchuk. Are you challenging yourself to do the branding work? Because it is the singular thing that grows anything. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very, very much. That was very insightful. and I'm happy you kept time. Yes, 2 or 3 minutes over, but still, it was very insightful. And what I picked up on was the fact that you and Dr. align on most of the things. Talking about culture, talking about consistency, talking about law firms of the future, relying on technology. That is key. So if I just, because in the interest of time, if I just move on to questions, I would like to start with you, and then I'll go to the doctor. You see, when it is one of the most controversial things, or one of the most one of the items that, like, when you're talking of the 7 habits of Stephen Covey, you spoke of the 6th one, which relates to hire and retaining of good talent. That is one of the most crucial thing, or one of the most troubling thing that is happening in Zanzibar, but in Tanzania in general. So I just wanted to pick your brains more on that in terms of retaining good talent. Yes, you spoke about you have to hire the best, hire good ICT personnel, hire good receptionists and whatnot. The big problem is that you hire people, you train people, and then after 2-3 years, they leave. If you could pick your brains on that, and then you could move to the doctor on the same one, and then I'll ask you another question, and then I open the floor, please.
Thank you, Sandy. So let me just say, these are my 7 habits of modern law firms, not Stephen Covey, but I like the way he summarizes all these things into 7 habits of highly effective people. But this is what I thought was critical. So talent retention, and very quickly, in the interest of time, first of all, I'd like to say that that is across the board. It's everywhere. In the developed world, in the developing world, you train people and they go. And our young associates are restless. They are perhaps not like us. And that's okay. It's their generation. That's how they think. Now, what you must do is first remember that it has got nothing to do with you, obviously, if you're treating your employees well, but people move for whatever reason. But I always tell people, when they move, remember they're your alumni. So if you had maybe person X working for you and they moved to corporate Y, and you treated them well, but for whatever reason they went there, maybe more money, or it's maybe they're more interested in that area. When you want to look for business in that organization, you don't have to go and say, who is the person here? You don't have to Google and say, who are the officers? You pick up the phone and say, John, this is your former boss, or this is your friend Pamela. Please, I'm looking for work. I see the company is advertising. May I come and see you? And when you go there, you look for John specifically. You don't look for who should I talk to. So it's not a bad thing when they leave, so long as we treat them right. But I would like to say this, employees feel valued when training opportunities are offered to them. And therefore it's critical that if you want to train them, that you offer them training opportunities. And when you train them, don't feel bad that they go. It makes the world better. But also what happens with us, many of us law firms, is that we do not communicate progression opportunities. Somebody comes, they work for you for 7 years, they don't know, surely by now I should have reached a certain stage in this company. Naturally, anybody would go. You would go, I would go. So please, let's ensure that we communicate that to them clearly, and that the culture in the organization is not toxic, because as I said, however great your strategy is, if your culture is wrong, you will not succeed. That we offer them mentorship opportunities, and that we give them feedback. I know even in our firm last year, when we talked to the younger lawyers, they said, I give you work, you never get back to me. Give them feedback. The way the world is today, every business that you operate must provide feedback. That's what I would like to say, Sandy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very, very clear. If I could move the same question to Doctor, in your experience, do you complement what Pamela is saying perhaps, or you have a difference of opinion?
Thank you very much, Pamela, for a lively, meticulous presentation. Quite resourceful. That's appreciated. I'll start by endorsing what you've said to start with. I fully agree. Retention has always been a challenge. And I like the point you said that we should not complain when staff move, because even ourselves, at some point we were is another firm. So it's a progression. It's a natural tendency of human being. But you can deploy some initiatives at least to slow down the exodus. One of the things is to how you treat them. It's extremely important. I've come to realize that to humans as a whole, beyond money, feeling that one is appreciated, is part of the family. That's why we mentioned about the institutional culture, how you treat. I've had in some cases very unfortunate story where partners are treating other staffs like they're just nothing. They're underrating them. The way you link up with them, of course, you have to draw the line, but much as you are the boss, there must be a way where they feel that they can emulate, they can share with you stories, concerns. And that's why also it's important within the firm also to have a person who manages issues of HR, human resources, because these are youngsters. They've got ambitions, they've got they're confronting a lot of issues. So it's a question of how they get the right advice on how to progressively handle their issues. The more we give them the opportunity, the access to talk to us, they feel that they're part of the team. I remember even at Nextlaw, at some points, some very good fellow decided to move on, but they keep on linking up with us very well. In fact, they are references to us wherever they go, because we parted company in a loving way. We appreciate that, in fact. So it's important to prepare ourselves mentally that is a possibility. But we can do something in terms of minimizing that possibility and to create the working environment. It's also important, what I've come to realize, as humans, we always aspire to grow professionally. So that's why I mentioned about having the internal structure, clear, defined structure in terms of professional growth. When they see at the firm, do they know what they have to do in order to grow professionally? That goes down to the firm setup. How do you envisage in terms of the size of the firm? In terms of, is there any limit with the plan and the structure? Or anyone who aspires and who work, there are defined processes, requirements that they have to do in order to grow and recognize also the work they do. So that's very important. If we do that, we have what we call a very clear path, whether you call it HR guide, that is transparent, that if you do 1, 2, 3, you can move on from being just an advocate into an associate, or associate as a partner. There's a clear line, clear path of progression, professional progression. Upon it, if it's clear, achievable, and you don't want to put it some very difficulty requirements, which someone look at it and say, this is just fictitious. I can't, whatever I can't. So you have to be like that, and you help them in the process. One thing which we normally forget, senior partners, aging, our capability to deliver also goes down. And there is a change of market dynamics. There is an age where you can link with executives or directors, because these are your peers. At some point, when you move up with your age, you'll find some CEOs are not comfortable because just you have passed the age. So we have got to appreciate that the more you integrate the young ones, they'll be the asset of the firm in the long run, because when it comes their age, then they'll be able to link, and you as a very senior, you find a different role to play within the firm sector. So those two things, how you treat them, and also having a clear professional growth path in terms of internal guidelines, maybe on HR, how you can professionally grow. I think those we can, once those are in place, they can also add as an incentive and minimize the exodus. But otherwise, we should accept that it's a common practice, but we have to do whatever we can at least to minimize the possibility. Back to you, Sunday.
Thank you very much. And I completely agree with you both. So it's been a bit of an issue when it comes to having policies. So we don't have many law firms that have policies. Like you are talking of a 5-year plan, 3 to 5 year plan. Not many have, because they don't see the reason in doing so. But I believe it's one of those things that gives you direction. It brings down into where you want to go 1 year from today, 2 years from today, like what you are saying, doctor. In as far as also, if you treat someone well, they will always say something good to you. They always refer you to bigger clients. Even if something comes, let's say he moves to a bank, it will be easy for them to recommend you because they know you and you lived well. So I would say yes. But also when you are speaking of technology, the both of you, you agree that we have to embrace technology. Things have changed. You cannot do without technology. You cannot do without AI and whatnot. And of recent, we have seen in America where there was a first robot who was developed by a startup called Do Not Pay, which actually appeared in court, and then they sued saying that he didn't have a practice certificate. You're not supposed to practice. But then looking at the dynamics of it, now you have AI, it's moving pretty fast. Now you have ethics and etiquettes. You have law firms wanting to complement that. So where do we cut across? Should we be scared? Should we improve? Should we on board? Yes, the robots are coming. But now with what is happening, what should we do? I'll start maybe with Doctor or Pamela. Either one can jump in. Doctor can go.
Okay. It's an interesting question and issue. Something which we cannot afford to hide from. It's a reality on the ground. And little we realize that the many things which we are doing now, some 20 years ago, were not in place, and which has transformed the way we relate with the clients, the way we interact, the way we transact. We can give examples of technology breakthrough like e-money, e-banking, which has transformed the way we link, we relate, and we have been able to cope up with that. Humans are always having this ability to change, realign, and also accommodate the changing environment. So the same can be said, as far as I'm concerned, about AI. It's a breakthrough which is now transforming not only legal fields, but many other fields will be affected in one way or another. But my thought is that human role, now we're talking about lawyers. Lawyers' law will continue to be relevant, irrespective of the changes in technology. That there is a human part which technology, however good it is, it will still need a bit of human intervention. So in my thoughts, that's what will happen is that the professional practice will not disappear, a legal practice. Rather, we have to shift the way we do, the way we interact, the way we operate. So I think AI will come in and also significantly affect how we operate. In fact, how we study law will be affected, how we apply law, how we interact with the clients, how we interact with the judicial bodies, adjudicatory organs will change. So it's a question of not whether it will change, but how that change will affect. So that's very important, I think, for planning purposes, at least to take time is firm. And Pamela pointed out a very good point that a modern law firm must be conscious of the changing technological dynamics in the market. And this is, I think, is a classical example where we need to check out as we move on the generation of clients that we are going to serve in the next 10 years. Will they be expecting us to continue in a business as usual as we do today? What is going to change in terms of how we get them, how we serve them, and the level of satisfaction, how they derive? Because most of the questions, they'll be able to answer through variety of modes or mechanisms which are brought out by new technology, including artificial intelligence. So the question will be, then what will be our relevance? Which parts of opinion, of business practice that will still need human intervention as an agent? So it's a question of how we shift. I'm not worried that legal practice lawyers, that they'll disappear in terms of being in practice, but our landscape, legal practice landscape will significantly be affected down the line. So the question is the question of being realigned. We as humans will be playing a complementary role. What is done by robotic lawyers and human agents, it will be in a complementary fashion. So maybe it's a question of repositioning ourselves such that clients are still worried to completely rely on robots. They still want a confirmation from a human agent, because at the end of the day, there's those aspects which I think humans will still be important. So the role will still be there, will not disappear, but it will shift for sure. So I don't know the take from Pamela, but I think there will be a change in terms of how we interact with clients, how we deliver services. It's a question of us being ready and institutionally prepared to change and adopt and adapt to the changing technological environment.
Yeah, I agree. And Pamela, what's your take? Because I believe with what Doctor is saying and adding into your 7 habits, technically they want to rely on the robots. They want to have that human connection. What's your take?
Yeah. Thank you very much. First, let me say something from a famous quote by somebody called H.G. Wells. He said, adopt or perish. Let me repeat that. Adopt or perish. Now, if we think about that, actually the reality is that AI, law tech and reg tech are here currently, and they will be there in the future, and they will only get better. Now, AI really will help streamline our workforces. It will help us automate services, including technology. It will help us provide even better services. And so, as Dr. says, we really need to work with AI and law tech and reg tech, because whether we like it or not, it's only going to get better. And I'll tell you one. So I love writing as a teacher, like Dr. of law. So I often write articles. And I wrote an article and I had thought about it over a week, 2 weeks, and I thought it was the most brilliant article, and I was so impressed with myself. Then I asked my brother, who is a medical doctor, and who I think is very brilliant. So I told him, can you just read this thing and give me a peer review? And then he told me, so what is this really about? Because he's not a lawyer. He said, look, I'm very busy, Pamela. So what we are going to do, let me give you back some feedback in 10 minutes. So then he sent me 2 articles on my topic, and brilliant articles. And I asked him, and remember, he's not a lawyer. I asked him, where did you get this from? He says, from AI. And I had been very impressed. I mean, I still think a lot, but when I read the article, I said, wow, this is brilliant. So really, I could have said, too bad, I can't continue. What I think we must do is we must embrace AI, we must embrace law tech and reg tech, but we cannot afford to be average or mediocre. And sadly, many lawyers have been for a while, but clients now, the modern clients, are expecting much more from us. And therefore, let's accept technology, because it will help us streamline our workforce. It will help us automate services. It will help us provide better services for clients. And we also must accept that there's a human element in every business, as Dr. says. There are things that technology, and though that shouldn't make us comfortable, but there are things that are best done by human beings. And we also must remember that the legal profession does not recognizes that we must comply with the legal and ethical standards, whether we are using AI or law tech or reg tech. And therefore, there's space for us as human beings because we know the ethical standards, we know what human beings do. I mean, just quickly to close, I mean, we used a lot of technology during COVID. Clients came back now and said, we are fatigued with webinars, we are fatigued with technology. Can we see your physical presence? So there's hope for the profession, but we must embrace cutting edge technology and artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more because just yesterday we had a client who flew in all the way from Nigeria, but he was coming from the US. And then he was like, because we spoke over Teams, but then he was like, I'm so glad that we met. And when we met, we actually talked longer and even discussed other business of which we couldn't or we didn't when we were doing a virtual meeting. So I think it's that human element, what you're talking about, the both of you, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. So because we have like 30 minutes left, what I will do, I'll open it to the floor. So there are questions and there are hands that have been raised. I'll read the questions. I have two, and each one of you can pick up on. So the first one is from Barnabas Nyalusi. He's saying, why are many practitioners in Tanzania not opting into company? Is there any peculiar reasoning to that? Maybe I'll give that to you. You can start, Doctor. And the second one is from Boaz. He's saying, a great presentation, thank you. Could you please harmonize this? You have entirely treated the legal profession as a pure business enterprise, while our legal profession regime still maintains the traditional standings that the profession is not a business. Two, it's just a public service not premised on business rules and protocols, as you pointed out. Therefore, we can say that the entire presentation seems not to be informed by the underlying legal professional regime. So I think what he's trying to say is there are those principles that we have been held into for a long time in terms of you cannot market, you cannot do ethical, but then there are this gigantic thing that is happening now in terms of we have to brand ourselves, we have to embrace technology. So where do you cut across? Is our legal professional and ethics not important? So I'll leave the second one to you, Pamela. Perhaps, Doctor, you can start with the first one in terms of the practitioners. Why are they not opting to banking, to company? I think what he meant was to work in a company rather than working for a law firm. Is there any reason for that? And then I'll go to the hands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sunday. The way I'll try to answer it in the two approaches. I thought maybe the question is, why do you go for partnership rather a company? If that is the context, as we understand that for many years, I think for centuries, the traditional institution has been you form a partnership where you share rights and the liability equally, given the sensitivity of the issue that you are handling. So you mutually share the responsibility. I think most law firms will go for that because of the nature of legal implications, legal ramifications that comes with having a partnership. That's why most law firms go for partnership, because you, as I pointed out, I think during my opening thoughts, that when you want to set up a firm, you have got to get somebody who shares the vision. You have also many areas where you mix up together so that it will be easy to work together, like a partnership. But I know some companies, some law firms, they call them law firms, but they've registered themselves as company limited for a variety of reasons. It could be maybe easier of exit for compliance purposes, for regulatory, because I think the compliancy when it comes to tax differ depending on the institutional settings, and also liability, which is assumed. Maybe they want to limit it to the company. As a partnership, as you know, as per the law, the scope of liability or what we are responsible for is extended beyond the operation of the entity as a firm. It can be extended to individual. We can also account for or pay for the mistakes which partners have done if you go for partnership. So at least it's require a high level of commitment, trust, mutual trust, if you are to set up a partnership as a law firm, and instead of opting for a company. So I thought maybe the question was mainly in that context. But if the question had to do why are they not working with the companies, rather they go with the firms, I think the opportunities, normally internal in-house lawyers, when you check on the number, the options or opportunities are limited for in-house counsels or attorneys. But depending on the size of the company, some companies may need a big number in terms of the legal department or government institutions. So it depends, I think, on the opportunity, but some may prefer to be based or work with the firm because the scope of operation, normally the internal or in-house lawyers will be confined to area of practice which the company's operations are focusing on. Whereas in the firm, it gives you a leverage in terms of dealing with many angles, many perspectives, depending on the issues which are brought forward by clients. So for professional maturity in the growth, I think those who are at a law firm, a modern law firm, a corporate with the wide diversity of clients in terms of the areas of their operations, they stand a far better chance in terms of their ability to understand many issues, compliance, operational, and other legal issues. So that's my reaction. I thought in the first time that the question was targeting the whether you go for partnership, why firms prefer partnership and not established companies. I think I responded on that as I started my reaction to that. Back to you, Sandy.
Thank you. And adding to what you are saying, if what he meant was what you've just said, I believe also like what you are saying, now they are moving from partnerships into companies, because I know at least 3 law firms who have opened as a company, of which many are resenting that as is not the way to go. But what they're looking for is protection, and partnership does not offer that. Now, there is an outcry. We need to have an LLP. The law should come into, it's about the right time. Now we have a limited liability partnership law that will probably is for another day, but we need to have that. And that is what he was saying. And Pamela, on to you, your question, if you could respond to that, and then I'll take a hand. I think Diana has raised her hand, and then I'll go after you, I'll go to Diana.
Okay, can you hear me now? I think, yes, that's better. Thank you, Dr. for that great response on the first question. Let me just quickly talk about law as a business. You know, I teach law. And when I teach my first year students, I always tell them, ask them, why are you doing law? And they put up their hands and say, I want to help women and I want to help children. And that's okay. And then when I teach them in 4th year, and I ask them, so why have you done law? What do you want to do after this? Very few, I don't remember any who put up and said they want to help women and children. And I'm not saying that to help women and children is bad. We all do that in our professions. What I'm trying to say is that law is a business like any other. But there are of course, very high standards in the profession. Ethics is critical, just like for doctors, even for us, and perhaps, if I can say that jokingly, the Kenyan joke, even the clergy. Some Kenyans might not believe that, but because our clergy have a lot of issues. But it is a business. And if you want your business to grow, you must run it like a business. Okay, there must be very good standards, and you must understand your target. Your target here is the clients. And as I said, clients are becoming more and more savvy. And therefore, they expect that you run your business in a very professional manner. In fact, your clients expect that you even run your business better than theirs. So for example, as I said, if you have data protection, at bare minimum, it should be the same policy as theirs or better. If you have ESG, who are you employing? Do you care about the environment? Your client doesn't want to come and find paper all over the place. You printing everything and thinking you're so clever and sending it to the clients. I went to a forum recently and gave a client a business card. It was an ESG forum and she said, Pamela, you should be doing e-cards. So I came and talked to my business development people to say we need to think differently. So law is a business. And what I know it's a noble profession. And what I think that the critical thing is that, are you running it in an ethical manner based on ethics and international best practice for all firms, including ILETs? Once you do that, there's nothing wrong with going there, being aggressive ethically, doing the business, being paid for it, being rewarded for it, and of course, enjoying it also. So the bottom line is just that there must be ethics and professionalism, but a lawyer must be forward-thinking, must adapt to change, and that's what clients want, and must be proactive because that's what clients want from us, from our business. They don't want meek people, and humility is critical. It's one of our big pillars here. We expect that people are humble, but you must be ethical in the way you do business and enjoy the profession, including the rewards of having a successful strategic business. Thank you.
Okay, I'll let Diana speak. Diana, you can unmute and ask your question to either of our panelists. I think she has connection issues. I can't, but then we have another question. For young lawyers with firms, there is an issue of retaining clients to most unexperienced firms, since most firms do prefer law firms with experience. How will this young law firm retain clients? So I will let either one of you to jump on board with this one. And the second one is, hello, my name is Jamadini Ngolo. First, I want to thank the moderator and the panelists for a great presentation. My question is why modern law firms seems to cover much on the large cities than regional level, since even the terms of practice differ. Therefore, how to accommodate the same? So 2 questions. Why big law firms are in big cities? They don't go to other small cities so they can accommodate different types of practice. But also the first question was for young law firms, young lawyers who have no experience, how will they retain clients once they have them?
Let me start.
Okay.
It's good that the questions start with retention. Presume that the client is already there. So the question, how do you keep? But maybe for the benefit of the audience, you can also point out how you can attract or convince a new client to come. Clients need services, clients need assurance, clients need protection. So we have to just appreciate that from the very beginning, that these are the fundamental to a client. Of course, there is a branding aspect that in some cases clients, because it's a risky decision to engage a lawyer when there is a significant contentious issues which is now in dispute, they want some sort of assurance. So for some reasons, clients will go for experienced one because either they have dealt with similar cases before, they have a lot of background information, they know ins and outs of the issues, written and unwritten rules of the game, very important to appreciate that. So that's why clients will ask for this kind of expertise. So one of the best ways to do that, and I think we've been advising youngsters, the way you start your firm is very important. From where you do pick in terms of starting. Most of the successful law firms will come to realize they either started at a certain law firm where at least they had experience in terms of handling, particularly clients, may say corporate clients, or they have handled the clients with a big volume of assignments. So that could be a good starting point, at least. Instead of starting a law firm from afresh, it can be complicated. Or in some cases, the best way to get a new client is also for certain assignments to link up with other firms. I know in some assignments where you can work jointly with other firms where you team up. And as you go along, you get experience where you can put in the profile, the types of assignments that you've done, and progressively you can build trust. But based on my experience, I would say if you get a client, the first thing to do is to make sure that you attend that client in a manner that will attract the client to remain with you. And there are a number of issues which takes that to happen, that are critical in order for that to happen. We normally focus on the legal issues, the kind of legal service that we give. That is very important. But you have to realize in order to retain clients, there are other issues which are not necessarily of legal service nature, which need to be taken on board. For instance, how do you handle communication with the client? How do you respect a client's time? It matters a lot. How do you maintain what we call a positive relationship with the clients? How you link, how you relate. Now, of course, experience matters when it comes to those issues, but it's very important you do that. And after you've offered service to a client, it's very important to go back to a client and get some form of feedback. And I've found it to be quite useful in order to retain clients, to just not be what we call transactional relationship. By transactional relationship, we're talking about what we call a quid pro quo. You bring the instruction, I give my service to you, okay, I wait for you to come again. That is not the way to retain clients. One of the best way to retain clients is after service, you continue to link with them, maybe giving them some updates which affect their business operation at no fee. And they'll appreciate that someone is thinking about us, even though we have not given them instructions. So it will be very likely that when they've got a specific instruction, they'll also think of you, because at a time when there was no instructions, you were thinking of them and you gave them some feedbacks. So it's important we maintain that relationship. So we have to be conscious in terms of the time we take to give them services. We don't want to engage them overly that they get bored, but we have to manage that carefully, giving them feedback, educate them. And as Pamela said, they should look at you as a reference point for many issues. And that's why a modern law firm, a legal practitioner will have to read and be appraised with so many issues, including the current regional continental dynamics which are taking place. You have got to be aware. Business news, some political statements which have been made. Business clients are very much conscious in terms of what is going on and how that will impact their business. So I've got to be conscious of that. So when they ask us about, have you heard about this pronouncement? Have you heard about this news in the news media or in the newspaper? I think it would be disappointing if you say, okay, I know, what is it about? Every time they ask you, you are not up there. So it's very important for a modern legal practitioner at least to be aware of the basic trends which are affecting business, affecting clients. If we do that, we'll be able to attract new clients, but also be able to retain the new ones. So once we get one client, that is a stepping stone to get another client. how we deal with that first client is extremely important. And the basics of client management comes into play, as we've said, how you give them the quality service, timing, the feedback you're getting, you're giving them is very important. So as you grow, I think the confidence of these clients will come up. And we've seen some youngsters who are doing very well also in the same markets in Tanzania and Zanzibar because of how they position and how they appreciate these clients' psychology and the clients' management. I think that's critical. So that's my reaction regarding the retention of our clients. Why we keep ourselves in the big city, I think Pamela will give that thought. Some of the issues are quite natural. They've got to appreciate that normally the virtues will go where you get the point.
Yes.
That is very natural. Maybe I'll leave it to Pamela to just give us her thoughts.
Yes, Pamela, over to you.
Thank you, Daktari. So just to encourage the young lawyers, the way the world is moving, actually, they're moving from regular machine process kind of services. As I said, clients are looking for bespoke services. And if I was a young lawyer today, I would do things this way. I would not rush into perhaps opening. I know sometimes, because I'm a teacher, my students tell me, I can't get a job. I have to open my own practice. But while you do that, you must try then and understand that business is about client centricity. In fact, a research was done, and my colleague and myself actually did a presentation on this. And of many things that clients want, the number one is client centricity. Now, what the young lawyer doesn't know is that they may be able to offer client centricity in a superior manner than a law firm, which is very large, which sometimes looks at system structures, and forgets to look at the human being. You see what I mean? It's like music. If you went to listen to music on your iPad or radio, it's very different than when you went to a live opera and listened to somebody maybe play the cello or the violin or the piano. It's different. That's why for the live one, you pay so much more. And for the run-of-the-mill one, it's free of charge. So the lawyers need to remember, one, that if you offer services that put the client at the heart of the business, it might not be at the beginning, but the clients will build over time. And that is something sometimes that smaller firms are able to do perhaps better than larger firms. Let me give you a perfect example. I know many of you have perhaps been to Dubai or Singapore. Those are cities, and they don't have much in terms of resources. You know, people think Dubai has oil, Singapore has, they are just cities. What do they succeed in? What makes them so successful? Daktari will say, I'm sure agree with me, it's client centricity. You have gone to shops in Dubai or Singapore, they do not have, you tell them, I don't have money, I'm in a hurry, they say, just come in, have some water, have some juice, try the diamonds on, even if you won't, you see, I can see Sunday shaking his head, even if you have no money, try the diamonds on. What do you think? Let me educate you on the business of diamonds. And or whatever it is that they're selling. If you have the money, even if you hadn't planned, as I've done in many cases, you end up purchasing the items. Okay, I haven't purchased diamonds, but whatever they were selling, and gone home and said, really, why did I buy this item? It is because the person who sold the business was this young sales lady who did, or gentleman, who did such a fantastic job. I was at the heart of his business as a client, but when I was done with them in 20 minutes, I felt so guilty because I felt they fully focused on me that I really had to compensate them for their business. And that's why I'm saying young lawyers need to not give up. If they focus on the core thing, which is the client, the business will grow. Importantly also, you need, as Daktari said, you have to build systems and structures. Nobody wants to go to an organization where the data might be on social media, might be anywhere. You may not have the resources to do it, perhaps the way Daktari's firm may do it, but you have some free resources now available that you can at least show a client, I have developed these policies, I have done this, I have done this. And clients sometimes will support you and say, so-and-so is coming, young in their practice, but they are clearly thinking about the future. They are clearly thinking about me, and the business will come. So nobody will come to you without strategy. And also, Daktari said a very important thing I'd like to add on. I know that professional indemnity is critical, but people sometimes are willing to take a risk if they know that you know the business, that you're going to give them good legal advice, that you put them at the heart of your business. They're sometimes saying, okay, let me do it, or I can say, go and work with this firm, collaborate with this firm just to cushion me, but I will pay your legal fees. Or I'll give you the work if you give me the undertaking that you will focus on quality professional legal services. So don't give up if you're a young lawyer, but remember that the world has no space for mediocrity. So you have to continuously upskill and reskill and train yourself and provide the services that clients want in an exceptional manner. Clients have changed. They are demanding and you have to deliver the service. Unfortunately, they will not give you business out of pity. Now, on why we go to law firm, larger cities, I think it's really a business decision. Dr. talked about the vultures and the prey. That's where it makes sense. Remember, it's a business. I mean, I come from a very remote part of Kenya in the island. If my law firm went there, even if they loved me dearly, they would not even be able to break even. They would not even be able to pay the rent of the premises they have. So much as I love my village, it doesn't make business sense for me to go there. That doesn't mean that we cannot support, because we have to think about community. And every modern law firm must give back. And that's what we are being measured on. What are you doing for the community that you belong to? So I can still serve those communities. And I always believe, and I tell this even to my students when I teach them, every lawyer must give back. Okay, and we must offer pro bono services, and we must support people in need. We can still do those even from where we are, but we cannot, it doesn't make business sense sometimes to go where the numbers are not there and the resources are not there to compensate the business. Otherwise, the business will not be able to survive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the young practitioners got a lot of that, and they will take that into practice. I have a hand raised from Michael, so I'm going to let him speak as a question. Michael Mushi.
Thank you very much for a very nice presentation. I once wrote on the, of course, on the chat about the question that I wanted to ask you, but let me ask it. I am a lawyer who has established a law firm which is going to turn 5 years this year. But I've been, of course, I've been questioning myself about what is so-called the client account. There are people asking me, do you have a client account? But the way we operate in our office, we have the office account, where if we are paid by the client, we do what the client has instructed us to do. But it comes to my puzzles. I'm sometimes puzzled when somebody asks me, do you have a client account? I'm trying to ask, what is a client account and how is it operated based on the way we practice our law firm and the nature of practice? Do we really have what the client account? Because I learned that when I was in law school and in university. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to ask that question.
Thank you very much. So I'll give Pamela probably 1-2 minutes to respond to that, because we have other like 3 more questions and then I'll close.
Sure. So Michael, first of all, thank you for being candid and asking that question. I think that's a good question for a young lawyer. So I know you learned it in law school, but it's a cardinal principle of any practice of law, so cardinal that in Kenya, we have an audit done for all lawyers, all law firms every year. And if you're found not to have a client account, really you will not be given a license for the next year. So let me tell you very simple terms, and perhaps if Sunday can give you my email and I can just do a quick write-up for you because of time on this. So there's the office account, which I can say is really your money, if I put that in quotes. That's where you pay your salaries from, you pay your rent from. If you don't belong on the premises, you can do whatever you want with that, almost whatever you want, that's legal. The client account is not your money. This is money that you're holding for whatever reason, perhaps for a transaction, perhaps as a stakeholder, but it's money that is not yours. And this money must never, never be mixed with your money. And it must be clear that if the client wants their money at any time, if you're not holding it for whatever reason, of course, subject to contract, but you must be able to, as quickly as possible, release that money immediately to the client. So for example, if your client is paying, let's say there's a sale transaction, your client is purchasing shares or some piece of land, when that money is paid to you, you cannot put it in your office account. That money must be put in the client account and must be held there in trust until whatever condition is there to the sale or the transaction authorizes you to send it to the third party or to whichever client. That's not your money, and it must never be kept in the office account. The office account is really the money that you use to operate your business, to pay your salaries, etc. But the client account is money that belongs to the client, okay? And must never be put in the office account because it is held in trust and their fiduciary obligations for a certain reason to meet this. You can reach me. Can even help my accountant to just explain that to you on why you must separate money that doesn't belong to you from the office account and the client account. In fact, in Kenya, it's so serious that if you don't do it right, they will not give you your practice certificate for the following year. I'm sure it's possibly the same in Zanzibar, but maybe, you know, if your farm is smaller, they may not be checking this very clearly, but it's critical that you follow that rule if you want your practice to thrive going forward.
And I may add just a few points on that. Thank you, Pamela. It's also, apart from being a legal requirement, but it's also good for a law firm for tax compliance purposes. You know, clients pay us fees, also disbursements. For instance, they may send money to you to pay for filing fees if it's a court case. Now, if it is not kept in the client's account, tax authorities, they'll treat the whole lot as yours. That's your money, because then you'll have difficulties in terms of proving that, no, this portion was a government fee, this portion for this, running cost, maybe disbursement. So it's good to have a client account because it will also protect you when it comes to tax liability, because there is a stage where you end. You normally engage with the clients and you sign an engagement letter. And the engagement letter will indicate phases of the assignment. Once you have completed this assignment, then you get this percentage of money. Then you shift it from client's account to your firm's account because you have earned that money. So it creates a sense of responsibility on the part of the firm and lawyers, but also from tax perspective, it's good because then you'll be able also to explain to tax authorities in terms of the exact earnings of the firm. And you know, in Tanzania, and I hope in Zanzibar it will become very soon, the tax authority have established special department for law firms. So they are following up compliance. And that's why we pointed out the need of having county departments, if we are talking about modern law firm, where all the expenses, payments, all the earnings are well kept, reports are provided, and then the client account will have also an independent accounting report. So that's very important. I know some firms and practitioners, I may say, they have some very informal, I may say, types of practices. At some point, I was surprised when an advocate is telling a client, okay, don't pay me. So pay to, he's giving the client the school account for school fees of his son. So the legal fees are paid directly by clients to as school fees. Then I asked the guy after that's a phone call with the client, they say, that's not serious. So the client is paying you, is paying your fees as school fees. So what is the client's lawyer relationship then? That's the high level of, I may say, mediocrity. We should not entertain that. We have to be formal because we communicate trust and high level of organization if we have a client account and we operate it as a client account. Because it's one thing to have it as a client account, but it's another thing to operate it as a client account. The levels and when the money are taken from the account to be firm's account as earnings. So I thought I should add that dimension and to emphasize that this is a very important, not only for compliance with the law as it requires, but it will also save you when it comes to tax obligations.
Thank you very much. Just to add on the same, so it's what is being taught in law school, let's say in Tanzania, but also it's one of those things that are also taught in Zanzibar, but also in terms of changes. Like now in Zanzibar, there used to be Zanzibar Revenue Board. Now we have Zanzibar Revenue Authority. And there are so many changes that are coming. And the lawyers are like, when we were renewing our practices this time around in Zanzibar, it was chaotic because no one was aware of how you're supposed to now make returns on your income, and all these things are coming into play. Like, why should I have to do that? And then you have your tax clearance certificate. So all these things were not there, but they're coming. So we cannot do away with. Zanzibar has to change. But I think also we might need to do one of those webinars in just concentrating on this, because I think it's very crucial to know the importance of having different accounts in operation for a law firm, because we can talk about the firms of the future, management, your law firm, planning and whatnot, but if you don't know how to handle your finances and how to have a client's account, then all these things become a waste. But also, before we close, I would like to read 3 questions, last ones. So there's one for Doctor. They're saying, this is anonymous, and someone anonymous is saying, in your presentation, you spoke about firms having criteria to qualify clients that are to be retained. Can you explain in your examples from your personal experience how that is about or goes about, but also what would be your recommendation of approach where a client is dissatisfied with a court proceeding? So a client is not satisfied with court proceeding, how the case was handled. How would you advise on how would you approach such a client? But also another one, I think they sort of more or less the same, from Franklin Chonjo, who is saying, is law governing opening law firm lenient because there are so many law firms in Tanzania? So perhaps, Doctor, you can join both. And the last one from Kevin Michael is saying, is there a need to have modern laws that can accommodate modern law firms, especially now that everything is changing? So I think those questions sort of like complement each other, and you can answer them all at once. And then after that, I'll give a round for you to do your final closing, and we close. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start with our first one on when I said the client's qualification, so qualifying process. What I meant was it's very important also as a firm to identify itself the type of clients that you're going to deal with, but also what we call the qualifying or cross-checking process serves a lot of important purposes, in the sense that when a firm becomes bigger, you have partners, 5, 10 partners. If you don't have a centralized system of admission of clients, you know the kind of clients that you're dealing with, you may run into 2 potential problems. Number one, your co-partner may accept instruction from a client, whether when you do the conflict of interest check, you come to realize the firm is conflicted. So it's very important to check that not all instructions you just take on board. There are those types of instruction where you have to check, clarify that intent based on the clients you have. Are you going to have conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, or a clear-cut conflict of interest? So it's important to check on that. And some clients, they'll ask you as a preliminary question, are you conflicted to handle my instruction against so-and-so? So we normally have to check, but some, they just pop in. So we are excited to get the instruction. We want to do that. But at the end of the day, we may end up doing an instruction where we have a conflict of interest, which is the fundamental ethical breach. So it's very important to check on that. Number 2, I think most of us are aware of money laundering. related obligation. And looking at the law in Tanzania, it's very broad. The catchment is very broad. So it's very important to cross-check. You should not be overly excited with the instructions. Check who is this kind of clients. Do a bit of due diligence. What is dealing with? Do you have any suspicions in terms of the source of revenue or the nature of the transaction that you are asked to advise on or to oversee? So that is what I'm saying regarding the qualifying process. And there's cases where we had suspicion in our firms, and politely we declined because the law on money laundering, the net and the scope of catchment is quite broad. So even lawyers will have to be conscious of that. I think this is one of the aspects which Mr. Sando may think of to remind that we have also shared the obligation. And we have seen some law firms, some lawyers, you remember, were taken to court because of money laundering. They were considered to be part of the transaction. So it's very important to do the qualifying process. It's not just everyone who pops in, you take instructions, you get the money. So you have to do the conflict of interest check and also potential lines of money laundering. So you have to do that as a precautionary measures. The other question was whether if a client is not satisfied when you represent in court, what you should do. As we mentioned, there is this aspect of client management, and this is not one-off thing. You can see the signs very early if you have a proper framework for client management. How you engage, how you give them feedback, you hear their views as you progress with the case. So the client will be able to just see the effort, the professionalism that you put on as you move on with the instruction. Even if it's just a legal opinion, it's not a court case. How you engage, the kind of professionalism you deploy during the engagement, the quality of your opinion, how it looks like. So it's the question of engagement, the type of questions and information you seek from clients. The client will be able to see how good you are as you navigate through this relational aspect. So I would say it will be unfortunate if the client comes at the final stage to realize maybe there was a communication break. We have seen in some cases a client mid the assignment realize that, okay, no, maybe I should go for another lawyer because of not being satisfied. So the question here is, how do you manage a client progressively? The kind of feedback you give, how you respond to the questions. I know some lawyers tend to be very harsh to clients. When clients ask some very legitimate questions, they tend to shut them up. Shut up. I'm a lawyer. Why have you come to me? So you have to listen to what I'm saying. But this is a thing which we should take into account, that they may have their views, their opinion. So it's important we explain it. Even if we differ, there is a way to explain it. And the client, I think, will be satisfied, irrespective of the outcome of the case, as long as we engage and we manage a client properly during the all phases, receiving instructions, doing the instruction up to the conclusion of the assignment. Whether there are so many law firms, the law is lenient. Yeah, we are in a free market economy, and there is no any statutory restrictions in terms of the numbers. But what the law can do, because here we're talking about consumer protection. And Pamela, in my capacity as a member of staff at the School of Law, University of Dar es Salaam, I supervise a PhD student who did a thesis on protection of consumers of legal services. There are some very important dimensions which you have to take into account as we set up law firms, as we offer legal services. We should remember, as lawyers, the negligence principle applies to us, that the categories of negligence are never closed. We remember that famous saying in the law of torts, the categories of negligence are never closed. It also applies to lawyers. We can be negligent. And that's why one of the aspects I think which we have not mentioned about a modern law firm, it must have an indemnity cover. And most of the clients will ask for that. Do you have a professional indemnity in case you advise us and we suffer loss based on your advice if you are negligent? So the same applies. We have to take into account the quality of law firms which are established. We receive some, in many cases, demand notices which have been written by some lawyers, and you just feel something has to be done in order to save the profession. So you're right that maybe something has to be done in terms of regulating the standards, regulating the service, because otherwise we should not think that we are safe because we are a big law firm. Because the perception created by a lawyer, single lawyer in Dar es Salaam, in Mbeya, in Zanzibar, can affect the entire profession. People start saying, you see lawyers of nowadays, how poor they are. So it's important. We should be interested to check in terms of the quality of lawyers, quality of law firms. So I think at some point, this is the field which will attract serious regulatory hands. That's such that the process of establishment, the compliance, the structures, like engineers. If you are establishing a company, engineering consulting firm, there is a regulatory authority that will come and check your office. Do you have chairs? Do you have computers? Do you have staff? What are the systems which are in place there? Because at the end of the day, you're going to offer services to clients. So I think we're also duty bound in terms of protecting consumer of legal services by making sure that the legal practice is regulated in terms of the structure of the law firms, minimum structures, how they operate. And this should be done in a manner which is constructive. Or even a support services can be built in terms of giving them these perspectives, how you set a law firm, the basics, and how you can make it progress. So that is my reaction. So the law in terms cannot limit the number of law firms. Some of the limitations will come through competitions. Firms will die out of natural fight, the survival of the fittest. That's what it's all about. The market will determine. And we've seen law firms established. Some have been disappearing, they've closed for various reasons. So I think the best way is to have key defined benchmarks, which guides establishment and operation of law firms. If we do that, then I think it'd be good and fine. Back to you, Sandy.
Pamela, you wanted to add anything on that? Let's say for 2 minutes, anything, any of those questions? Right.
Yeah, so I think, thank you very much. Let me just add something on why it's important to check, and Daktari has addressed this well. It's very important that you do KYC on your clients, which is know your client, know your customer, for other businesses. And somebody said, what would be the examples? So when you do your KYC on a client to determine whether or not you want them, Daktari said, obviously the conflict check is important, because imagine if you do not do the conflict, there may even be no direct conflict, but you may embarrass your partner. Find yourself, you're suing your partner's daughter or your partner's mother, or things like that. Or you haven't done a proper conflict check, or you've done a very basic one by putting the name of the company, but you haven't included the directors and the shareholders. And you find that that is actually an existing client of the firm and you're suing them. So it's critical that you do a conflict to check. Is everybody in this partnership comfortable with us acting for this person? The conflict check is also important because it may give you information that you don't know. For example, that person may be listed on World Check as somebody involved in laundering money. And you may act for the person, you've been paid good fees, you're very happy. The next thing, the government is coming to arrest you. Or there are some sort of sanctions that are affecting you as a person or as a corporate. So it's very, very important that you do that. But in terms, the person that's also you're acting for may have been accused of and found guilty of child trafficking, something that your firm cannot possibly do. I mean, people are accused all the time, but somebody found guilty of child trafficking or money laundering or things like that, you may not want to associate with that kind of business. And so it's important to check. But in terms of even client management, it's very important from the very beginning that you have a letter of engagement. That letter of engagement talks about, if you're not happy with Pamela, who can you go to? If you're not happy with that person, who can you go to? So it manages the client, and it prevents you from having a problem before it escalates. Because as Dr. said, when the problem is simmering, this client and myself, there seems to be an issue. And quickly the client can go to the letter of engagement and say, I'm not happy with John, I can go to Mary. I'm not happy with Mary, I can go to David. This is how my problem will be solved. I'm not happy with the firm, they actually give me an exit pattern. So it's important that we have those systems and structures in place. And I also want to, before, of course, we'll be given time to conclude shortly, I just want to say, or maybe I should conclude, then Dr. can go, I don't know, you guide me. I really want to encourage young lawyers and tell them that people are looking for bespoke individual services. And a young lawyer in his own practice might be able to have a lot of time, to perhaps give the client the attention that they want. So even if you don't have, and I said this, a modern firm with these systems and structures that we're talking about, people give you business because of relationships, whether you're a big firm or a small firm. People, Maya Angelou said, people will remember how you make them feel. It is across the board, whatever business you do. So if you make your client feel valued, that you spend time with them, that you care about the business, that you're giving them individualized service, they are going to stick with you, because they will feel, some of them will remember, I actually grew my business from a one-man show or a one-lady show, and it became so great. So let me give this young man or this lady an opportunity. So there's space for that kind of practice. That sometimes a lot larger firms have a lot of bureaucratic processes, even in onboarding clients, that might not be sometimes very effective for clients. So even if you're young, there's hope. But you just must, in your little practice, have systems and structures, and you must make client centricity the heart of your business. Because most clients, when they're asked, why are you paying a person X more? They say, because person X puts me at the heart of his business. So that is the most important factor for any business. Put the clients at the heart of your business and you will succeed. And your clients are really your ambassadors. That's how you'll get repeat business and referrals. So maybe I can close now so that then Dr. can close, so that we don't have to come back to me, or your preference. I stand guided.
So that's,
can I go ahead? I proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you so much. So we had been told that we were given a few minutes to just close. I want to just repeat something that I said from H.W. Wells. Adopt or perish. Please let that sink in. Adopt or perish. The other thing I'd like to say is the only constant thing in life is change. The only constant thing in life is change. What does that mean? It means that firms are changing. The way we practice is changing, okay? And therefore, whether you're a one-man show, one-lady show, whether you're a small lawyer, whether you're a modern practice, you must be able to respond to current trends, and you must prepare to position yourself for the future. It's critical that you do that, okay? And you must keep an eye, what is changing? Even for these young lawyers who are thinking, but maybe my firm is not so big. Perhaps you understand ESG better than all these big shot lawyers with big firms. Go into that area, read, study, practice, develop your skills, and become the expert in that niche area. What is climate change? Read, study, develop yourself. What are people saying about data protection? You may be a one-man firm, but you may be the expert that the larger firms may be telling you, come and be the keynote speaker and we'll ride with our brand. So please accept that we need to respond to current trends, and you must position yourself for the future. And you must develop a strategy. Even if your firm is small, modern firms thrive because they have clear strategies, 3 years, 5 years. That's the only way you can grow your business and remain relevant. The other thing I want to say is that business development, I know we've talked about advertising. Are people really advertising? Yes, lawyers are. If you look at the modern law firms, they're advertising. How are they advertising? They all have websites. Let's be real. They talk about the big transactions they've done. What are they really doing? They're advertising. They're marketing. So you have to make sure that you have some sort of marketing and that it is very targeted and very intentional if you want to grow your business. The other last thing, 2 things I want to say is that running a modern law firm or any business is multifaceted. So you must look at things from the different aspects of law. It cannot be isolated. You running the farm, you operating everything. You have to look at the different aspects of marketing, of strategy, of systems, of standards, of human relations, of even accounts and finance, if you want your business to thrive. And then, of course, you must be forward thinking. You must be adaptable to change, and you must be proactive. Whether you're a young farm, hopefully hoping to be a modern farm, please protect your brand as a young lawyer, or indeed as a modern law firm. Because if we don't protect our brands, our businesses will not thrive. We have to adapt or accept to perish. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Pamela. That was a very nice presentation. I hope most of us young lawyers, we're getting something out of it. And I would like to have more of this so that we can learn more, because we have a lot of challenges that from today's presentation, we have learned out of it. So Doctor, welcome for your closing. You have a few minutes, we're running out of time.
You know, and I think the audience is also disappearing. So few final thoughts. Pamela has insisted about adapting or perishing. I'll use the AAC. AAC. Adapt, you have got the options, either to adapt, to adopt, or be creative. So it's very important that to live up to these changing market environments. A lawyer should be prepared. I may say a lawyer is a student, a permanent student. We continue to learn on a daily basis. And the changing environment are also driving us to new ways of doing things. So we have got to be aware of that. So if we envisage or vision a modern law firm, we have to appreciate that changes may also bring new perspectives, new platforms. So it's very important to either adapt to the changes or adopt, really align to the changes, or we be creative on how we remain relevant in the changing market environment. So that's very important to young lawyers who aspire to have law firms which are modern, successful. But the other important quality is to appreciate that these things need patience. That as you grow, you need patience, commitment, determination. All these are important ingredients which will guide you in the process as you go and build your law firm. It's very important to be prepared and open to learn from others, inquire, build networks, link up with the senior, and just engage with them and get to know how they went through their way and where you can improve better than them. So that's the way to go. If we do that, I think the opportunities and the market in Tanzania is quite ripe. There are a lot of opportunities. So it all depends on how a firm is positioning itself and take advantage of the expanding market opportunities. So those are my final thoughts. And I look forward also to another event like this. Maybe we talk about another topic that would be also useful for young lawyers and those who aspire to set up modern law firms. Back to you, Naomi and Sunday.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone who have participated. For whoever have a question, you can write down and send us through our email, and we can see how Dr. and Ms. Pamela will be able to answer you. But for now, we will close unless if Sunday you have something else to say. Sunday.
Yes. So for me, it is very, very hard to add on anything than what has been said by Dr. and Pamela. All I want to say is thank you very much. I've taken a bit from what you're saying, like what you are saying, like you said, clients don't care about labor pains. They want to see the baby. I think that is very crucial. It's the narrative that cuts across. Yes, so we've spoken about the 5 for 7 habits. I was very interested in those. I loved your explanations in terms of how that cuts across whatever that we do in our profession. But also, even Doctor, you spoke about sustainability, we spoke about culture, we spoke about how we manage our clients. So I believe today, for those who attended, I learned a lot. And like what Doctor was saying, we will be reaching out to you too, because it's a series of webinars that we are starting this month and next month, and perhaps even once we leave in May, the other General Planning Council will take on for this, because Zanzibar has never been doing this. We are changing. We are going with the pace of what the government is doing. So we feel like lawyers need to be equipped in as far as the profession is concerned. So we have lined up in relation to dispute resolution, oil and gas, international commerce, all those things that we feel like lawyers in Zanzibar need to know. So we'll reach out in your respective practice, like we're talking of IP, we're talking of tech. These are the new practices that are coming across. We speak of blockchain, we speak of our chatbot now. All these things, we need to understand the implications of it and see on how now we can onboard the Internet of Things and things like that. So I would like to say thank you, Governing Council, on behalf of the Governing Council, on behalf of the CLE Committee. We thank you for taking the time. I know you are very, very busy. Doctor, you're busy. Pamela, you're busy running the farm. Thank you very much for taking the time. We'll ask for you to send us your presentation so that we can share. They've been asking for that offline. So please, if you can, we'll also share you the recording of our session today. And please, whenever we come knocking next time, do as you did today with open arms. Thank you very much. You appreciate. So with that, I would like to say, everyone have a lovely evening, have a lovely long weekend. Happy Easter for those who are celebrating, and for the Muslims who are still fasting, I wish you happy fasting and festive that comes after. So thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.